You guys, I'm very new to this group, and I have my own struggles with somebody, and it's actually my mother, and mother's. I'm not going into it. It's something that I'm not ready to get into yet, and I'm struggling extremely hard because um, it's so complex. It's so complex, and because she's covert, uh, I'm not. I don't have a sense of yearning to contact her. I feel a sense of responsibility to do it, and love starts to really muddy the waters. And the thing is that loving somebody who treats you awfully but is vulnerable, not all narcissists are, of course, but she is a really tricky one. Gosh, I've got dermatitis. It doesn't look very good in this light. Um, um, but I wanted to share, I think for a lot of people, because I've been addicted to a lot of narcissists, and the addiction is extremely strong. And there is a writer, and whose writing is hosted, I believe, almost exclusively on Medium. And I copy pasted. I had a subscription to Medium, and I copy pasted it. And I've tried to. The writer's name is Manj Bahra. And I would have thought he would be right up there with all the psychological, relationship coaches. And there are some really good ones out there. One's slipping my mind at the moment, but he's another, oh wow, just mind blower. And this Manj Bahra blew my mind with 3 articles. The one I can find at the moment, I think, is really relevant, and it's called Why Unpredictability is So Attractive. And everyone's heard of dopamine, but not everyone knows how dopamine works. And a lot of us don't associate that with our attachment to another human being. And we don't realise that it's not them that we're interested in, it's our own neurochemicals that are making us come back. And this saved me from this article, and I suppose the other two saved me. I was in such an awful state, and I just wanted to read it. So it's called Why Unpredictability is So Attractive by Manj Bahra. And I started with this is an email from 2022 that I sent someone, and I think I'll write what I wrote to that person as a precursor as well, because I really want to reinforce how life changed. This set me free. This totally set me free. It doesn't mean that I don't still miss unpleasant people, or but it destroys that illusion that there's anything special about them. So I wrote Manj Bahra, and his name is spelled M-A-N-J, and then B-A-H-R-A, is an exceptional relationships / psychology writer. who writes a paywall column through Medium. I read this when I was really in hell over what seemed to be unrequited love, but what it wasn't love, and it wasn't even really like. And I've heard this from other people before. I heard this well after I discovered Dr. Ramani, who said, often when we were asked how we feel about someone, why we like them, we can't even say what we like about them. It's because we don't like them. There's nothing about them that we like. It's the dopamine. It was just dashed hopes and a continuous, undirected yearning. I didn't want a relationship with the guy. I didn't really enjoy his company. I just wanted to hear from him, and I did occasionally. It was an awful, endless trap. This article cured me. About 70% recovered immediately after reading the article. And I remember it was dramatic. Like, I was crying. It was just a really awful, I was just so miserable. I was just like, there is nothing in my life that means anything without him. And it made no sense. And then I read this article, searching for something, some comfort, and oh my God. So about 70% recovered immediately after reading the article. And I'm largely immune now. I just have to stop walking into the stupid trap that I now understand. The article also revealed to me how harrowingly abusive my own hot-cold behaviour was. And that refers to, actually to my mother, before I realised that my response to her was a response to abuse. I had a huge amount of guilt about being hot and cold on my mother, and I felt that I was treating her like narcissists were treating me, but she is the narcissist, and I was just flowing in that breeze where I was trying to go no contact, but I'd come back, and that looked like unpredictability, either negligent or deliberate, but it wasn't. I understand that now. So here we go. It's from April 8, 2019, and it's an 8-minute read. I'll try and keep it to that. Have you ever met someone who you couldn't figure out? Perhaps they left you feeling like a moth to a flame, drawn in like a magnet, trying to decode and demystify their behaviour. Well, one minute they were cold, reserved and aloof, the next you saw the new side, warmth, energy and infectious passion. You became intrigued, excited to peel away the layers and see what lies beneath. Routine and predictability are dull. Uncertainty is sexy. It gives us the chase, the anticipation, the highs, the lows, the roller coaster of emotions. But what precisely is it about this age-old tactic that drives us so wild? Why is unpredictability, a seemingly counterintuitive behaviour, so damn attractive? Two key psychological concepts contribute to this reality. The first is cognitive dissonance, which I have covered previously. That's when we have to make sense of two conflicting behaviours and invest our time trying to solve the puzzle. So that's not just... I realise now that I've revisited this that he has referred to the other article. And so, yeah, that unpredictable, that cognitive dissonance, it makes you... That's what occupies your thoughts. That's why you're constantly trying to figure them out, because you've got these two opposing beliefs, because you've got this opposing behaviour from this person and you're trying to figure it out. So that automatically keeps them anchored in your mind all the time. It's a nasty trap. It's like a fish hook. So as it says, and I repeat, that's when we have to make sense of two conflicting behaviours and invest our time trying to solve the puzzle. While it is a significant influence in attraction, cognitive dissonance is only one part of the equation. Fortunately, I have found the missing link, and it's the same driver of addiction that is taking over our lives through cell phones, social media, gambling, and drugs. When it comes to raw attraction and wanting something, and it's not always raw attraction with these people. Often we don't know, often we don't even feel sexual attraction. I didn't with this guy. He was extraordinarily good looking as well, like top sort of 5%, including Hollywood, like. But strangely, I wasn't sexually attracted to him. I just wanted him. When it comes to raw attraction and wanting something, dopamine-driven reward loops are the name of the game, and nothing triggers a rush of those endorphins like unpredictability. Let's look at how dopamine is the fundamental chemical driving the attraction of uncertainty. What is dopamine? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter in the brain that transports information between neurons. It's responsible for the following functions: regulation of movement, attention, learning, ability to see rewards and take action towards them, creation of pleasurable feelings in response to rewards. Before you declare dopamine a wonder drug, let's remind ourselves it is a double-edged sword. Yes, without enough production, you won't get anything done, and you risk suffering from Parkinson's, ADHD, or even schizophrenia. And I've got ADHD, and I have to say, and I wasn't treated at that point, but when I was diagnosed and then finally treated in my early 40s, I did find that a lot of that addictive behaviour did disappear. Not completely, but it's the dopamine chase, and a lot of people who have this, I didn't have limerence exactly, but it has been referred to as limerence, this addiction to somebody. Conversely, this chemical that drives us to take action, towards good things, like we know I did my dishes before, it's like I can't wake up in the morning with them like that. I'm just going to make myself miserable. I haven't done them in 2 days. I just did them and I got some other stuff done, and that's dopamine. The dopamine isn't, there's no dopamine involved in doing it. The dopamine is all about once it was done, right? I did not enjoy one moment of doing those dishes, but I can see them now and I'm very happy about it. So I've got my reward, you see, and this is where this other stuff fits in with humans. So conversely, this chemical that drives us to take action also exposes us to excessive pleasure-seeking and addictive behaviours. The feeling of euphoria we receive when we get our hit trains us to repeat the steps that lead to that feeling. And when we repeat the steps that last time worked with that person, we've really just been puppeteered by them because they've trained us like Pavlov's dogs. So the euphoria we receive when we get our hit trains us to repeat the steps that lead to that feeling. This creates a feedback loop and ingrains a habit. Habit. In summary, dopamine allows us to identify rewards, and that's that person's company or attention. It doesn't even need to be company. Attention is mostly it, because you can be in their company and they're ignoring you, right? It's not a reward. That doesn't feel very good. You want their attention, because you can be living with this person and be starved of your reward. So in summary, dopamine allows us to identify rewards, physically take action toward them, and feel great in the process. And we feel great in the process because we're expecting the reward. Some people have said the whole mechanism of dopamine is only if you don't expect the reward. Reward is unexpected. That makes no sense. dopamine is a completely about anticipating the reward. If it was unexpected, dopamine would not be present. It might create the behaviours that start to secrete dopamine in unwholesome situations, but that couldn't possibly work if you weren't expecting a reward, because you wouldn't be working towards it otherwise. That means controlling this chemical directly influences how much effort a person will make and whether they feel good about it. Remember this for later. So I'll just repeat what he said. That means controlling this chemical. So my phone is on battery saving mode. I'm reading off my spare phone, which is a piece of shit. Sorry, phone. You're a wonderful phone. Thank you for still being there for me to use as a reader. So I'll say that again because he says remember it for later. And I haven't read this for a long time, but he's good at guiding us through his thought processes and what he's learned. So that means controlling this chemical directly influences how much effort a person will make and whether they feel good about it. Remember this for later. Next subtopic question. How does unpredictability affect dopamine? Dating revolves around a game of rewards. And of course I acknowledge that dating is not the only place where this horrible no contact cycle or operates in. For me, obviously it's very different and very complicated. And for me, I don't, with my mother, it's not about dopamine. It's about something else. But yeah, I've been through this so many times. I've had so many horrible crushes, and I still don't get in relationships because of it. It's very dangerous for me. It's like an alcoholic with alcohol. I really just need to stay away from it until I can get myself really quite properly sorted. And I had a lot of interruptions in my life shortly after I made this discovery, and it led to actually moving city. I had a whole lot of other stuff, so I didn't really get to put it all into practice. So I'm not ready yet, and I know that from a few brushes that have really devastated me that I'm not ready yet. But it cured me with this particular guy. Like I'm a totally different person with him. I'm not there to. Yeah, it's really amazing. It's changed my relationship with him, and it's like actually having cured my alcoholism. By analogy, it's like because a lot of alcoholics do. It's a myth that alcoholism is permanent. It's not. It's not. Not in essence anyway. You can cure it, and you can get to the point where you can just have a casual drink, not drink the whole bottle, and so I can continue a very on and off sort of relationship with this guy where I know the nature of the beast and I'm immune. Wouldn't recommend that to everyone, but yeah. Not without being very sure. Sorry, get out my phone. Dating revolves around a game of rewards, which means dopamine is implicated whether you like it or not. We know that this neurotransmitter drives a person to take action and feel good about it. In dating, this means the person is compelled to chase and will enjoy the process. There is an attraction to the overall game. As long as these pleasurable feelings are being created, the person will continue playing. Given we know this mischievous chemical is so integral to attraction, the question becomes, how does uncertainty affect dopamine? Stanford professor Robert Sapolsky conducted research to find out more about the conditions of dopamine release, because it was previously known as a pleasure drug, and we know now that's not the mechanism. His results showed two main findings. One, dopamine levels in humans rise in anticipation of a reward as well as receipt. In one experiment, and I've read even recently, like it's in meme sort of form, I mean not proper memes, but humour where, it's that kind of recognition humour where they go, like it's quite a famous sort of thing to say that the day before a day off is often better than the day off. Like Friday night is better than Saturday. It's that kind of thing. So the dopamine levels in humans rise in anticipation of a reward as well as receipt of the reward. In one experiment, monkeys were trained to identify a signal, in this case a light switch, and press a button 10 times in exchange for a food reward. As this went on, and this is where ethic, there are ethics committees here, but yeah. As this went on, the amount and timing of dopamine release was measured. We would expect that levels would rise at the receipt of the reward. However, it was discovered that the signal was what triggered. The signal is what triggered release. That initial secretion is what kept the monkey pressing the button. The anticipation of reward, not the receipt. So that element had, after a time, it had gone. So there was no consistency even on the meta level. And we'll get into the inconsistency on the object level in a bit. In essence, and he's quoting, dopamine is about the anticipation of pleasure, the pursuit of happiness, not happiness itself. And this is not this, and you can tell from that, and this is very important, that this is not saying that dopamine, the pleasure that you get, or the motivation or whatever you get from dopamine, he is making it clear that that is not happiness, and that a happy relationship is not one in which you have to chase a high. So you can have happiness without a sense of anticipating a reward, right? Please excuse me, I am just finding my place again. Okay, point 2, finding 2 of Stanford Professor Robert Sapolsky. So finding 1 was all about anticipation, and after a while the reward itself didn't interact with, didn't produce dopamine. 2, dopamine levels are highest when uncertainty is at its greatest. See? It's the game. This wouldn't work if he or she was not doing this to you. This is their power, and their power is all in your own neurochemicals. It's got nothing to do with them. They're just manipulating your own equipment. It's like brainwashing. So Manj goes on. In a second experiment using the same principles, Sapolsky's team distributed a reward only 50% of the time. So if it had gone from 100% of the time, reliability, push it 10 times and you get the reward. So they trained the monkeys to expect a reward after every 10 pushes. It stopped becoming exciting after a while, you see. It was predictable. And they got the reward and they were alone. Yeah. Because there was no, I can't wait. So, Sapolsky's team only distributed a reward 50% of the time in this. Incredibly, twice as much dopamine was released when there was a 50% chance of getting the reward. Feels familiar, eh? Oh my god, it's bringing back some bad memories. When percentages were changed to 25% and 75% rather than 50%, the increase in predictability was associated with a corresponding decrease in levels. That means the more a result is 50-50, the more excited we are by the outcome. Hot and cold, anyone? What's important to note is not just that the levels doubled with the 50-50, but the monkeys still completed the work when the result was less predictable. The animals were still compelled to perform the task, and the rewards were not alternating 50-50. They weren't regular binary 1 0 1 0 1 0, because that becomes predictable. The idea of the 50-50 is that it was random or randomized or at least engineered in some way that the monkeys could not predict which the outcome would be. So there was no pattern to figure out. So the animals were still compelled to perform the task when there was a smaller guarantee of a reward. Notice how you see this dynamic play out in real life as you watch humans put in immense amounts of work for future paydays that are never guaranteed. If we're honest, some of us even put the work in now for a reward that we think is going to come after death. I take it Manj is not religious, and I don't think it's good to dwell on anything to do with belief in the afterlife or whatever. But nonetheless, even if you believe in an afterlife and a creator, you're not. It's not even. You're not. It's not that you're. It's still a reward that would happen after your own death, right? And you're not going to be, whether or not in that case you would keep your personality and all of that stuff. You're still your living self is never going to have that reward. Yeah. So I think that's the point he's making. Maybe it's more neutral than I give him credit for. So, and here's this next subsection heading, how does this apply to our love lives? First, we need to... Sorry, the reason I hesitate sometimes is that the copying across has put in some weird symbols and numbers where some letters are. First, we need to... define. It's a 4 instead of an F. First, we need to define what the rewards are in dating. I've listed some examples below. Attention, and that's in person, texting, calling, social media. It's just attention, it's getting attention from that person, being the focus of their interest, which, as we know, is often fake. Physical affection, touching, kissing, sex, emotional connection. Sharing stories, vulnerabilities, passions, goals. And there's fun experience, dates, concerts, games, travel. It's funny how common men include sex and physical affection as a category. It's very often the case. Men put that in the physical affection category. Don't think women do too, but it's just, I think that's just really interesting because it's not. I find that a bit of a category error, really. Considering sexual attraction is a very strong force. Yeah, and that's got a huge dopamine element itself. Fun experiences. I don't know, sex or something like that. Dates, concerts, games, travel. If you're really good looking, you can include that as a reward. Some people are fickle and want to be seen with physically attractive partners. I don't think that's being fickle. I think it's just human nature. The attractiveness uh, privilege is pretty well known. Second, we can infer some fundamental principles from these findings. Principle 1, we must appear to be a worthwhile reward for anyone to work for us. Here we go. The monkeys only did the work because they got a treat. If you have nothing to offer in each of the categories above, nobody will chase you. Principle 2, anticipation is enough to raise dopamine. We need only to give out rewards initially to pique the interest. There is no need to give out your rewards constantly. It's counterintuitive, but research shows that the anticipation is enough to get the chemical release and chase. Principle 3, be as close to 50% predictability as possible. Dopamine levels are doubled when certainty is at 50%. This increases the likelihood of a person to chase you and feel good about it. If you don't do this, the result becomes boring and interest drops. So earlier when he was talking about the experiment with 75% and 25%, 25% isn't enough to keep our interest. So it's not worth it. And 75% is too, again, it's just too reliable to be interesting. Dopamine levels are doubled, the chase, a worked example. Let's look at this from the scenario of someone who wants to win the affection of another person and get them chasing. Initially give out rewards such as attention and fun experience. This could be the first date, but it doesn't have to be. The other person needs to see this is worth the effort to make it memorable. The chaser now thinks that if they see you again, they will get the same outcomes and pleasurable feeling. Dopamine begins to rise in expectation of this feeling without you having to deliver. And saying without you having to deliver tells a very special and very nasty truth about narcissists and their games, because they don't want to deliver, because they don't care about us. It's just a chore. It's a chore they do to get their buzz, because their reward has been chased. You now need to increase uncertainty by responding differently and withdrawing the frequency of rewards. You might decide to cancel a meeting or reduce the attention you give. The spikes dopamine twice as much, which drives the person to chase what they've lost. It makes me really sad because the heartbreak is real. It's really that sense of loss. And for anyone going through that, I'm going through my own hell at the moment. Thank God I'm not going through that, but I know that, and I'm so sorry to all of you going through that, because that is heartbreak. It's so horrible, it's so cruel, it's so destructive. I can't even find the word. It's just torture, and it's just so cruel. Now increase the size of the reward. For example, you may want to build on your emotional connection or show physical affection. Maintain uncertainty as above. The chaser becomes more compelled to win the bigger reward. And I don't think this article from memory covers it, but there's something called future faking, which is when a reward is given in the form of a promise about the future, and it might be, let's move in together, let's go on a holiday together, let's get married, let's have kids. It could be even, let's go camping next weekend. It could be, hey, I'll call you on Tuesday. And none of those things happen. So the reward is, again, on another kind of meta level, the reward is a promise of, I guess it's like futures and stock trading. They're speculative, but they're not. In this case, it's just a Ponzi scheme, you know. The chaser becomes more compelled to win the bigger reward and pursues harder while feeling more pleasure. Dopamine levels are kept high because the perceived reward is increasing. Perceived reward is increasing, while still being just elusive enough to maintain the interest. I'm going to tell you, I had a 72-year-old man with quite a lot of physical flaws to do with lack of, I won't call it hygiene maintenance, but you know, he had got quite a bad case of like athlete's foot and clearly fungal infections from just not, you know, like in a big pot belly and, you know, things, and he was quite short, you know, like it was amazing how much control this man had over me, to the point that he was promising to have sex with me at Christmas time, and it was about September, and that reward was intense, and that's how effective this shit is. You know, I was, without the eczema, like it's not actually eczema, the dermatitis, you know, and if I put on makeup and you know, like I'm reasonably attractive, I'm more objectively attractive than he is. Even, you know, I've seen pictures of him at my age, and I would certainly be more physically attractive than he is. And then I found him extremely attractive at him at 72, but there was no particular reason for it. I mean, I should have been way out of his league, but I was. He had me gasping for sex, which he had put about 3 months into the future as a reward on Christmas Day, and it didn't happen. And this is insanity. Do you see how insane this is? So Dopamine levels are kept high because the perceived reward is increasing, while still being just elusive enough to maintain the interest. Excitement and anticipation remain high. It's psychological torture. Let's be clear about that, and that's in New Zealand where I live, that's a crime. Now, if you read that and thought it was manipulative, realise all I've done is break down one half of why playing hot and cold works. Look at these example behaviours and see if they are familiar. Inconsistent texting patterns, sometimes fast responses, sometimes none. Cancelling plans at the last minute. Hot and cold, sometimes happy to see you, other times cold. Denying feelings but acting a different way. Physically touching and then suddenly withdrawn. All of the above create some element of uncertainty, and they rarely switch you off a person completely. If anything, it makes you want them more. The purpose of this post is to show you precisely the role that uncertainty and unpredictability play in attraction. That role is mostly a manipulation of dopamine, the hormone responsible for us wanting to do things and feeling great about them. What's the result? Immense attraction, a roller coaster of emotions, and a euphoric experience. When a girl or guy doesn't text you back every time, do you like them more or less? It might annoy you, but it usually makes you chase harder. We're all enthralled by the chase. Nobody wants to watch a movie that's predictable or lacks drama or conflict. We want to believe that we earned our results. Ironically, anything that comes easy makes us suspicious and wonder what's wrong with the person. Remember, the more predictable the outcome in dating, the quicker you lose interest. But what if I'm in a relationship? Predictability and routine are what destroys even the strongest and most loving couples. Your goal is simple, never stop surprising each other. So this is when dopamine is used in a positive way to maintain a healthy relationship. If you adhere to this one rule, you always maintain that level of uncertainty and unpredictability that is shown to drive pleasurable feelings in humans. When you strive to surprise each other, not threaten to abandon each other or not be there, but to surprise each other, just enough, there is always an element of wonder and anticipation. Not only will following this rule help boost your love for each other, but you'll also always be pushing and trying new things. Together you will grow as individuals as you consistently look to expand your horizons and leave your comfort zone. But that's after you've established a trusting relationship, you see, with real love. After 10 years in a relationship, I can tell you that to keep surprising, you will have to get creative, and that's a beautiful challenge to have. Uncertainty is attractive. Use it. You've seen some of the science behind why this one trait is so attractive in humans. We know that it drives immense feelings of pleasure from the production of dopamine and how it plays an integral role in creating the experience of the chase. You may also consider if the concepts in this article have caused you to obsess over someone without understanding why. As in my case, why? I don't even like this guy. I don't enjoy his company. I just want his attention. Sometimes become inexplicably attracted to another human. We begin to question if it's some divine destiny or meant to be. Chances are it is nothing more than your hormones creating an addictive feedback loop. Remember, elevated and consistent dopamine provides the euphoric high of crack cocaine. And before my ADHD diagnosis and treatment, like many adults, I'd had a history of self-treatment. So I haven't had crack cocaine, but I've had similar things, and I can confirm myself that the drive for reward is very similar. And really, in both cases, it's nothing more than your own dopamine. It's not the person and it's not the drug, it's your own neurochemicals. It can be equally damaging to your love life when left uncontrolled. Now you know why uncertainty is so powerful. The question is, how will you use this information? Make it happen. Set a goal. Oh, no, sorry, he's talking. He's linking into another other article. Um, but it does sort of show how you can turn no contact into maybe a dopamine sport. You know, like you can turn your reward into remaining no contact. You don't want to be unpredictable about that for yourself, because that's not the mechanism that's going to help you maintain no contact. But you can make little games and challenges for yourself, I suppose. Anyway, that's 45 minutes. And I think to post this, I'll have to probably upload it to YouTube and post it. But yeah, I think it's well worth a listen. I feel a little bit hesitant about posting the article because it is behind a paywall. And I feel that's a bit disrespectful. But if anyone wants to look up Manj Bahra, I really recommend that. ManjBarha, and he writes for Medium, or through Medium at least, and I'm amazed. He is on Twitter, and he's got very few followers, at least last time I checked, which was last time I had Twitter, which is ages, but he's really amazing at relationship stuff, and I think he really needs to be drawn into the fold of these, relationship coaches, especially those who deal with very unhealthy relationships. Oh, Matthew Hussey, that's the guy I was thinking of. He's a real amazing person, and he had an incredible interview on Women of Impact with Lisa Bellew about what a relationship really is, and you have to get through to 5 stages before it's actually a proper relationship, and we often stop at 2 or 3. Okay.